Yeah, I wanna
Right, for
get into development in like
But,
2 years or something.
yeah.
Less if possible. I'm gonna start in tech support. I'm just impatient with my junior year job. I went to school to retrain and get a job, and I can't even wait. Like,
Junior doesn't work right now, it's hard.
it seems like it. I mean, yeah.
We have a lot of website builders, that's what.
And I know I'm competing a lot with like people who just got a bachelor's degree, and I'm just kind of like, but hopefully I'll
Yeah,
get in tech support there. Yeah.
Customizations, because I feel like that's really the only way.
I'm looking at the domain office.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So,
That's a great
okay,
office.
see
I was
what
up there earlier this week.
Awesome.
Yeah, I normally work downtown.
Cool. Do you know Nate?
Yes,
He's like a
very
junior
well.
dad. Yeah, he's cool. I met him at the meeting group. He's like, that's like the model I hope I can follow. Yeah, he's
Yeah, he
cool.
went to support R&D.
Yeah.
The community, really not, I knew it was open source, but I didn't really know that much about like what that meant and how many developers and developers and all this was. And so it was like this big learning curve with me when I started working on festival, because they're like, you go to WordCamp and people are gonna tell you that they're a developer, but they're not. They're a website builder.
Yeah, that's what I call them too, the website builders, and the market is saturated with them, which is why I'm like, well, you know what, I actually write PHP.
Yeah, they're like, ask them what code they write in, and if they can answer you, then they're like training me on how to filter these people
Yeah.
that meet at WordPress.
There's almost like a market. There's so many of them are out there, and it's so easy that you just press that one click install, and it does everything for you. Or like, I mean, Fiverr corners the market with that.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
doing like the
Yeah.
$20
Yeah,
WordPress.
people don't put enough emphasis on quality. That
No,
could be
not at all.
another presentation.
No,
I also started a WordPress project today.
Just to
like,
kinda
it
test
kicked
it out
off
and see.
today. Yeah, I've been messing with like what they have on GoDaddy and like
Yeah.
getting ready for this kickoff meeting that I had today, but I
Yeah.
had that today. And it's a simple site for a nonprofit in town. It's just
Yeah.
a free project.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Get your feet wet.
Yeah,
that's what they're.
and I'm actually having a hard time, because I'm inexperienced in WordPress, with just like theme selection right now.
It just depends what, just
Make
whatever.
sure it has support. Find a theme with support.
I'm thinking-
like,
Oh, I've seen it.
That's
You know
what
what
I
I'll do,
press one.
like, check your
Active
comments.
support, active support.
Just
not
whatever business
just-
How
company
far
you
over that
support.
we are. So can you develop can you have just the Genesis framework with no child theme? Is that possible?
I've never
Is the
used
Genesis
What I've been
framework
doing
like
is installing the child theme, and then
There's builders that you can use, like Beaver Builder and things
Yeah.
like that will help you kind of.
I was trying to decide between that
Beaver
and like
Builder's a good
Elementor.
Elementor, that's one I use,
I have
Divi.
Elementor on.
Yeah.
Divi Builder.
I just
is
don't
right.
know if I can, I can like customize things quite a bit, so I've just had a hard time deciding. But I want this to be something I can easily turn over to this nonprofit
That's the
and like
thing.
not,
that's when you go by the.
I should just pretty much stick with
Do Genesis for your personal site, and Beaver Builder for.
Yeah, Beaver Builder is really user friendly.
yeah.
Or Wix, like if it's something.
And I think Beaver Builder has like, you can do a fair amount with it
Hello?
for free.
All right.
Yeah, these are cool dudes, right? Be supporting good people.
Yeah, this is a cool nonprofit. It's gonna be fun. I don't think she'll be too.
Nice. Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
But if she does, this will help me a lot today.
Yeah, this is a good front-end conversation.
Yeah, I like it too. This is where most
I
of the
could have used
problems
it
are.
right before the kickoff meeting.
Dang it. Actually, this was supposed to be, like, not last month, or, no, it was April, but then my company, we had our retreat that we go, like our annual, because we're all working remote, so once a year we all get together. And it just happened to fall into that week, so I had to reschedule it. So it would have been sooner.
Yeah. I just started 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I'm new to WordPress. I've already been messing with PHP files and like
You've done 2 years of coding, right?
Yeah.
So PHP.
I don't have good PHP. I have
Is this WordPress?
Yeah, come on in.
mostly JavaScript and
What was
C++,
your-
Python,
Oh.
JavaScript.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
yeah.
do that PHP.
Yeah, I've been messing with it, not, and fixing things when I
Yeah, that's
break them,
right.
but I'm not,
Steve Stowers? Nice to meet you, Ryan.
yeah, I'm just making page templates sometimes.
You don't really need to, you know,
You know,
unless
just
you
get
want
a
to.
buddy, like, I know people who code and like, we can do things when things need to be done.
Yeah. It's just being able to speak to each other, like translating those requirements.
Takes two to tango.
That's true, yeah.
From back end to the front end.
Mhm. Yeah. You snuck, both of y'all snuck in, I haven't met anyone who does. I'm Michelle.
Steve Towers.
It's nice to meet you. What's your
Karen
name?
Davis.
Karen, nice to meet you.
You go to this meeting
Yeah,
every, is it every Thursday or is it Monday or what,
Yeah, I wasn't sure, she grabbed more pizza either, because I don't know how many.
Yeah, I don't know how many people are coming. I don't know if you guys like usually get
Oh, it's
started
already-
real promptly,
We're
or
a
if
fairly
like
loose group, yeah.
a networking then present. I
don't know.
I'm right over.
Sure, yeah. First off, thank you all for coming. This is the WordPress meetup group. We have a meeting just about every week of the month. This particular one is kind of our business developer hybrid track where we cover fairly advanced topics, but some of it is code, some of it is how to run your business, just things that professionals need in the field. Ryan Hooper, I'm subbing in for Ben Moore and his wife who had a baby and are currently enjoying a newborn instead of hanging out with us. Yeah. Thank you for coming. Yeah, so we've got Michelle Kiefer here tonight. We're going to talk about UX and client tools and how to work with clients on board them and keep them happy. Should be really interesting tonight. I'm looking forward to it. We're also going to have this up on YouTube. Capital Factory is going to do that for us, have it up on their YouTube channel. We'll share that out on the meetup group and the WordPress Slack thing. I'll do another plug at the end of everything, but we also have a meetup next week at the T-Works in 4 Points. It's a beginner's meetup. It's going to be content strategy. Shameless plug, my wife is actually doing the talk. So it's going to be all about how do you blog, how do you like keep content going, how do you do editorial calendars, all that good stuff. So if you're looking to kind of build up that side of your things, you can go to that too. And we've got WooCommerce meetup that meets, I believe, the 4th week of the month. Yeah, that'll be up in the meetup. Here.
Sure. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming tonight. So my name is Michelle Kiefer, and we're going to talk about onboarding clients and onboarding projects. I am the Director of Marketing at Pressable. We're a managed WordPress host here. We're fully distributed, but it was started in Austin or in San Antonio, Texas. I'm formerly a strategic consultant. That's how I met Pressable and got my foot in the door with them and worked really well with the team. And they were the only company in the 4 years I did consulting that I said yes to when they invited me to come in-house. And so that is how I ended up with them. And it's really cool because they've never had a marketing department, so I get to build it, and that's really cool. My background is in design research, psychology, consumer behavior, market research. That is my way of thinking. My favorite question to ask is why? Why are we going to do this? That sounds really cool, but why? Why is that happening? I've learned over time whenever you ask these types of questions in any part of your business development, your customer relations, oftentimes even in personal relationships, things tend to go more smoothly and you're more aligned and more on the same page. I put my Twitter handle up here. If any of you guys tweet, I'm new to Twitter, even though I've been in marketing for almost 14 years. Twitter was just not ever in my brand circle, and I worked in small, medium-sized businesses usually, and it wasn't ever really worth it. So we stuck to other social networks, but now that I'm in the WordPress space, obviously Twitter is kind of a big deal. People talk a lot in the WordPress community, and so I've started tweeting. And so you can find me at MK Does Marketing. So what is the point of this conversation? We had a little bit of pre-chat earlier as people were trickling in. Really, when we talk about why this matters, it all comes down to better onboarding means better set expectations, which means better communication, which means they're not going to get halfway through your project that you're working on for them and freak out and say, no, this is all wrong, this isn't what we're doing, we need to go in a different direction. Or worse, that happen at the end of your project and then say, I'm not paying you for this, I hate it, this isn't what I asked for you to do at all. and you're kind of like, but this is exactly what you told me you wanted. So how many of you guys build websites for people or have had an experience like this freelancing? No, it's a little over half of you guys say. Just curious, I know you're new to WordPress. Those of you who are not building websites, what else are you doing in WordPress? Just curious.
Well, I developed a website using WordPress, but I also do SAP consulting, so I do two different things. But I'm interested in WordPress. I built a WordPress site myself.
Okay,
But I'm interested in UX type stuff, you know.
very cool, nice. Yeah, so UX is a very broad term. It's user experience, right? So any type of user at any given point in time is having an experience. Right now, you all are having a UX, experience right now. A user experience with me, with this meetup, with this presentation, right? So as it's become kind of this trendy buzzword, it's gotten really tightly wrapped around website design and how people move and flow through your site. And so for this conversation, we'll talk about that a little bit, but it is much more about what that user experience is between you and your client as you start a new project or as you start with a new client to begin with and try to understand what their goals are. So in addition to this being, having better onboarding practices, in addition to just not being disruptive with projects or finding yourselves in these uncomfortable positions where your client's unhappy, they don't think you're communicating well. We talked about how many times, I know when I was consulting all of the time, I had clients that just drove me crazy. It seemed like they were always changing their mind. They had no idea what they actually wanted. And so outside of that, though, it really becomes about, retention. When you finally finish something, your client is happy. Do they go away? Do you continue to work with them? Are you able to build any type of retention within your client base? And so these are just some common statistics that you guys might have heard. It costs 5 times more to get a new customer than it is to keep a customer and continue to sell to them. So when especially for freelancers and people who are just getting a start, it's a lot of your, the cost isn't always how much dollars you're spending on advertising, but it's your time. It's building free sites to get your name out there. It's going and networking and trying to get people to find your credibility and see your value and build business and get people to come into you. All of that is cost. How many cups of coffee have you bought for people who maybe they want to work with you, but then don't? Considering all of that, what goes into getting a project and growing a project, if you can find the people who you work well with, you communicate well with, they like you, not only are those the people who are going to come back and use you again, but those are also going to be the people who refer to you and help you grow your business and continue in that direction. Another thing, once you keep them, they're more likely to buy from you again, right? So you built them a website, well, now they want to expand an e-commerce shop, so they come back and you get to add that on. Or you build a plugin and you want to start selling it into your customers. The people who have already worked with you and like you and trust you and you communicate well with are more likely to subscribe and buy into those types of additional products and services that you roll out, again, versus trying to constantly find new people to work with. So have you guys heard of these statistics, any of these stats before? Like 5 times more to acquire? No? Anything surprising here or shocking? Cool. All right. So we take this, and so now we're going to start to try to move this into context. How do you get to the point where you know what they know and where you know what they really actually want? They want a website, right? So that's square one. But as we all know, that's not enough to know about what somebody wants to build them a site that they're going to like and that's going to be usable, that you can pass over to them when you're done should you not continue to maintain it for them and they can run. There's all these other variables that go into it. And unfortunately, when we look at the market statistics, especially where freelancers commonly work, which is in small businesses, medium-sized businesses, other freelancers, they're a photographer, you're a website builder, and you're building them a website and they're helping you with product shoots, right? There's all these exchanges and things that are going on, but it's usually in this smaller sentiment, right? And when we look at the market data that shows us, it kind of falls into that 80-20 rule, where the vast majority of people, they're not thinking about goals, because they're all in survival mode, just kind of like how you kind of find yourself in survival mode. You just need that next contract. It doesn't matter what, if it's, you know, this website I built was for a construction company, and this website I built was for makeup salesman, or, you know, you kind of lose focus and funnel of who you're trying to get and what type of clients you're trying to onboard. Well, so are they, right? They're just trying to get whatever business that they can get. That's why they have this, you know, sudden urge to improve their website or get a new website. So it's hard to, if they don't even know what they want, they just know they want a website, how do you get that, how do you start to extrapolate that from them? How do you get to the goals? Not to mention, you have 500,000 other things that you need to be doing besides learning how to read minds, right? And so then you think, okay, well, so I spend all this time with them, right? I'm gonna have all these deep conversations with them. We're really gonna bond, and I'm gonna understand their business needs. Well, that's not scalable, right? We all wanna scale, we all wanna grow, we all wanna do more than one thing at once, because that's how we make money in this industry. And unfortunately, again, a large number of people, the stat I pulled was 73% of people don't think that you can automate these types of things. So you want to scale, you want to find some type of automated solution, some type of experience, process, workflow that you can just drop them into and tell you all of their hopes, dreams, and goals with this website you're going to build for them. But that doesn't always work. So where do you really start from there? Well, you know this needs to happen. You know that it's a near impossible task. So you have to build something. You have to build a tool. You have to build a workflow. This is where this conversation gets a little bit vague, because even though we're all building websites, we all have different niches and approaches and different customer profiles that we work with. And so feel free to jump in and ask questions, or if there's something that you do in your business that isn't necessarily covered here, just feel free to jump in and ask. So the first time to really start building out and thinking about when you should have these processes in place and what they might look like is during the acquisition itself. So whether you're bringing on a new client or it's a client who's come back and they're saying, okay, we have this new project. So there's a few different things that you can have these different conversations. And again, you get to decide which of these can be automated and which of these can be kind of frameworked and workshopped and created into a process, and which one of them really just need to be a human one-on-one conversation with your client to learn more about them and discover and kind of go through that discovery process with them. So a client extension conversation is when instead of you learning about your client, you learn about your client's clients, right? So if they're trying to, sell something to somebody, whether it's a product or a service, they've got to have some idea. That's kind of your step one, right? Because if you're going to build something, ultimately, even though you're building it for the client who you're working with, really, whatever you build has to work for their clients. So find out what they know about who their clients are. I use a phrase called, who is your Sue, right? Everybody has this persona that, for me, my Sue was always the good old boy business guy who's been in business for about 10 to 15 years. He drives a truck and he really likes football. Those types of business owners and we jive. That's who my Sue is, right? Everybody has that kind of persona within all of the audiences that are out there, within the hundreds of thousands of millions of people who need a website. They came to you, you clicked on something, there's something that resonated with you. That's the same with their clients as well. So getting into those client extension conversations and getting them to tell you about who their client is, how do they shop? Are they actually doing the whole research and shopping and transaction on your website? Or is there a storefront included? Do you do other marketing things to them? Do they learn about you somewhere else and then your website is just kind of that last place, after a phone ad that's gone out? You have to get to those kinds of questions and understand more about who their client is and what it is that they're looking for. Another project and all of these things that are really cool, these conversations, whether you choose to automate them or just to let them be a discussion, some of them can almost, as you create consulting opportunities for yourself as you work with your clients and work with building websites, they can become additional, add-on services that you can provide. Oh, you don't really know who your customer is? Let's work together and let me see if I can help you find that out, because there's no point in investing in building a website if we don't know who we're building a website for, and now you've got yourself another line item on your invoice with this customer. So a vision workshop is exactly what it sounds like. Who do you want to be, and who do you want to be this for? And so just like you hopefully have done this kind of for yourself as you started your own business, and I want to build websites because I care about helping people, and so I'm going to work with nonprofits and service-oriented companies that our passions will match, and we'll get to build really cool websites that make a lot of impact, right? You kind of have your vision of who you want to do and what you kind of want to do. Even though we all know you're going to pick up whatever business might likely come your way, you still have that vision for yourself and for your business. So find out what that vision is for your customer, and if they don't have one, workshop with them. The 3 questions you really want to ask are, what are you offering? What is the thing that you really do? Who do you do it for, and why? And so if you can kind of work through those conversations with them, you can find out a lot about what the user flow needs to be on your website. You learn about what's important to them. So what information is going to be on a home page versus in a secondary page or a third page where it's not as prominent in the conversation that they're having with their clients. Another thing to talk to them about is getting specific about the funnel. So everybody's familiar with the funnel visual, right? There's top of the funnel, which is brand awareness. Then there's medium funnel where you're kind of warming up, and then they turn into a lead, and then it actually becomes a sales prospect, and then it comes out the bottom of the funnel as money, right? That's kind of the business flow of marketing. And so again, sometimes a website is a top funnel tool, and it's not the main thing, it's not the main vehicle that they're using to sell their product or service. It's just an awareness thing. It's, well, I have to have a website. If they Google me and I don't have a website, then I'm not legit, and they're not gonna ever come into my brick and mortar, right? So there's all these different, so identifying where their website fits inside of that funnel is a really important thing, because you need to understand, are you building awareness? Are you building for leads? Are you building for conversions or sales? Or are you building to maintain and nurture customers that already exist? Is this a customer experience that they want you to build with the website? And so especially bloggers are an awareness type of platform, an awareness medium. Their goal is to get as much traffic to their site as they can so they can begin earning ad revenue on their site, right? They want their website to be cool, it needs to be simple, but it's all about that traffic. So it's a top funnel site. So it doesn't need to be complicated. It doesn't need to have as many pages. It doesn't need to have, the way you move through the content has to be really simple and organized. And so by understanding where it is in the funnel, you can start to kind of predispose which template they might need and what you build out for them. So working this into their onboarding experience and having these types of conversations with them, again, this can be something you automate in a survey and you ask them. You can do it on a one-on-one call that you schedule with them as part of your project kickoff, and this is part of your discovery call. Or again, these could be workshops and add-ons to generate additional revenue on top of the website project you're building. Yes, sir.
What do you do with clients who don't, when you talk about the funnel, or what's your business metrics, that they're too new or the business is small, they don't really know what you're talking about?
So that's when it's a really good opportunity to put on your consulting hat and say, we can help you get there. Let's have this conversation. And it's a 30-minute session and it costs $150, right? And I'm gonna add that on, and it's really important work. You hear about market research and the importance of investing on the front end of your project. Use all the Pepsi, Coca-Cola things that make them feel excited, because that's what real marketing does. Invest in that, do that. You become part of that for them as a website build. And then you get to really position yourself as an expert. It's like, look, I'm not gonna build you something that's not gonna work. And if you don't know who you're selling to and you don't know where it fits into your business model, then what's the point of spending
$5,000 on this website or $10,000 on this website if it's not even gonna work? Let's spend this little bit of extra money up front, have these conversations, and get the information you need, and then we'll build your site. And if they don't wanna do that, sometimes you have to learn, like, okay, well, this might not go as planned, and grit your teeth and go through it with them, or, sometimes it's just not a good fit to work with that client. So, which is something that I learned deeper into my consulting years that I wish I would have been more strict with in my early years. Because I just want business, so I'll take whatever client I can get. What you end up doing is spending a lot of time, money, and stress on clients that you don't want, that you could have spent building business that would have been good for you. And so, it's hard to say no, but it's better for you to say no. So, yeah, that was a good question. Any other questions so far? No? All right, cool. So when it comes down to the conversation about personalized versus automated, automation can be a scary word, but there are so many cool automation tools that you can, create a Calendly link so you can automate your scheduling. Even that little tiny bit can really go far in how you manage your workflow process and all the clients that you're trying to talk to. There's a tool called Zapier that is like an API that touches any other tool's API, and it can make it's magic. It's so simple, it's so magical. So there's really simple automation tools that you can use that aren't scary, that are approachable, but you still have that personalized experience that your customer, especially on a project on board, wants to have. So you give yourself the break when you can get them. And, of course, you want to go in and brand everything and put in your messaging and make sure it sounds like your voice. I highly recommend not using the stock copy that comes in those templates. I know a lot of times people think, well, they're the experts, this must be good. But everybody's audience is completely different. If someone has a conversation with you and then they get an email from you that sounds nothing like you, it's gonna be weird for them, right? So that's a weird user experience that you created for your customer without even realizing it. So take the time to go through when you do onboard automation tools to make sure it's branded and in your voice and how you would articulate it to them. Another way to make the choice about how much you're going to be doing in personalized versus automated is kind of getting a feel for who your customers are yourself, right? When I worked with realtors who had a bunch of young millennial buyers, we automated as much as possible because they didn't want to go sit and have coffee with their realtor and look at stuff. They just wanted to not, for a house to magically appear they were able to buy, right? But then when I work with, people in land development, energy, you're talking about mineral rights and investing hundreds of thousands of dollars in these projects, they don't want some automated bot coming through and giving them an update. They want a phone call. They want a phone call every single time. So by understanding who your client is, that will really drive a lot of the choices that you make. So these are all the things that you can do on the front end. But then once you collect this information, there's additional things that you can do, kind of like phase 2, use UX onboarding. So you find out who their client is. You know who you're building the site for. You understand where it is in the funnel. You understand that they actually have a vision, and this is a website that makes sense. And there's a plan for this website. So just by getting all that information up front, the risk of getting halfway through a website build and then look at it and say, whoa, 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 whoa. I thought that we were going to be, this website was going to have a whole lot of forms and data collection points on it, and this is just, content. That would have already been found out by now, right? Because you understand where it is in the funnel. So you have enough to kind of get you started. So now you're going to create your proposal. Now you're going to really kind of start wireframing and mapping in your head and kind of figure out what this site looks like. But now there's another round of questions before you get too far into that this is kind of a good touch point. You kind of outline, you take all this information, you present it back to them in a really lovely way, make yourself look super professional. These are the things I've learned about you. These are the goals that are going into your website. This is how much it's going to be costing you. And here's your timeline that it's going to take for me to actually build what it is that you've asked me to build. We all know that when you start to build something, there's going to be something else that comes up along this way. So again, set those expectations on the front. How much, so when you tell me you have $5,000 for this website build, is that it? Is that all of the money? Is that your whole total build? Or is it you have $5,000 and let's see where that gets us, and if you need to scatter, sprinkle another, $1,500 on top to get like a specialized tool for it, we can do that. Get all of those expectations and boundaries set up front, because if they say, look, $5,000 is it, then in your head you need to say, okay, I'm building a $3,000 website, and I'm gonna give myself that $2,000 wiggle room, whether I need extra time, or I need extra tools, or I need to add them to a subscription service. We're gonna buy them an annual subscription to hosting, whatever it is. You wanna include those types of things, and you don't want that surprise sticker shock of, but you said, we went through all of this, and you said it was gonna be this, and it was gonna do that, and it was only gonna cost me this much. You're like, yeah, but that's not realistic. That's not how development works. That's not how business works. You have to have that flexibility. But again, we're working with these freelancers and these small agencies and these small business owners, and those dollars, they feel them harder. So make sure you understand what that resource really is before you start to map it out, and give yourself, subtract from what their top number is, kind of give yourself that number as your mental budget as you're planning and mapping your timelines. Another really important thing is to make sure you're all starting off at square one at the same time. This is another surprise that will jump out and bite you sometimes. You get halfway through building something and they're like, oh yeah, we have this other site and it actually does all of these things, and you could be linking and interacting and integrating their environments together. Is there another project that they've started and it died, or that someone started and it's just kind of been on autopilot running on the back burner for a while? What does this actually look like? And when we say this is what we're building, is this it? What all does this touch? What else does it interact with? And make sure that square one for you and square one for them is the same square. But then ultimately, not knowing what's not knowable, again, things are gonna surprise you, things are gonna come up. So make sure that when you're putting these onboarding pieces together, whether it's a series of landing pages and questionnaires, and you have this 4-week process that starts with these forms and it ends with this meeting and whatever it might be, that you feed into, make sure you're following up with them and you have touch points. When you're just like, okay, we've got it all figured out, the project is scoped, the agreements are signed, we're ready to go, a lot of times people will, and site builders, will just kind of go over into their own space. Now they're done with the client, they get to come over here into their happy place and build and do what they love and code. And then the client's just kind of waiting for this finished package with the bow to come back to it. And that's the expectation. So when there is a hiccup or I'm gonna need this, and you didn't account for it properly in your budgeting offset that you gave yourself, and you do have to go back, there's a problem. Or this keeps happening, and I know you really, really want this button to be in this very specific corner, but here's all the reasons why that is such a bad idea, and we really need to move it over here, right? Go ahead and schedule those conversations ahead of time. If you give yourself a 3-month build, go ahead and schedule ahead of time. Every 3 weeks, we're gonna have a touching base call. And maybe that call is everything's going great and wonderful and fantastic, and maybe there's a question or problem or concern. It's gonna make your customer and your client feel more engaged with. It's gonna set a really nice expectation with them. They're not just waiting. They know you're gonna touch base with them. That's gonna alleviate a lot of stress. It's gonna alleviate the freak out call or I was at the grocery store and I had this really great idea. Let me please tell you about it. Can we totally redirect that plan we had and do this thing instead? When you have those calls scheduled ahead of time, your client is most likely gonna respect that, and because they've got things to do too, and they're gonna wait for their slot, and they know what's coming. Oh, I have something scheduled with them in a few days. I'll write that down and I'll tell them. And then what happens is when you get to those calls that are organized, they know what they want to talk to you about. Not always, but it's more likely. And you can have more helpful and productive conversations. So, and after all, so you're the expert. You know what your process needs to look like for the type of clients that you're onboarding. And if you don't know, you need to slow your roll and maybe do some of these projects for yourself and think about what kind of clients am I actually working with? Do they like to be talked to, or do they want just emails? Am I allowed to text them? You know, like kind of, if you don't know those things about your business and how you're interacting with your clients, then you don't need to be building them things for them to interact with their clients. You like, get your ducks in a row before you get their ducks in a row. All right, so here's some of the kind of the things that you can do to start to construct your process. Now that you have an idea of what you're up against, but you have hopefully by now you have a more clear idea of at least how to navigate your client through some of those challenges of not knowing exactly what they want and getting to what we all know what each other want. How do I do that without taking up all of my time, without taking up all the client's time, in a way that's actually scalable for me, and a way that's gonna actually feel good and reflect my brand? Gravity forms and landing pages is a really great asset you can build. You build them onto your website. It's a landing page that's not part of your main navigation, and it's a specialized link that you only send to specific new client onboarding. You can make different variations and copies of them, and then you just put these gravity forms in it. Some of these questions can even be very preliminary. Do you need a vision workshop? Does your company have a vision? Does your company have information about your clients? And kind of pre-screen in an automated way, oh, okay, great, yeah, we're gonna work together. Let me send this link to you really quick. If you can just knock through that, then we'll be able to get into the next steps pretty quickly. Tie these types of things to, using Zapier or other tools. When they complete this form, that automatically schedules a reminder into your calendar to call them the next day. So you wake up the next morning and you have a 9 a.m. call scheduled for yourself, and you're like, oh, Billy must have completed his onboarding. He's ready to actually start. And it's there waiting for you. You didn't have to follow up on him. You didn't have to, so you're using that automation on your side, on your UX. And Billy completed, he got a timely phone call, and he feels like, wow, I'm working with a professional here, right? Survey tools, if you don't want to build your own kind of gravity form or use a plugin like that in the landing page, Google has a survey tool, MailChimp has a survey tool. Google the word survey tool, you'll find one. They're pretty much the same, honestly. And I did love surveys, like a stupid amount, more than most people should love surveys. And I've used, 10 different varieties of survey tools. Ultimately, what it comes down to is how much do they let you manipulate the branding and things like that to make it look and feel like you want it to look like. And if you're willing to pay for it or not, how much, self-promotion is the tool doing inside of your survey, right? Because again, you're positioning yourself as a professional, so you don't want to look cheap. But sometimes, yes?
What do you usually include in your survey when you do onboarding with new clients?
So it depends on what I'm onboarding them for. So if I'm onboarding them for a website, I initially on that front side of it, I get to some of those questions. Tell me 3 to 5 things about your customer. Where does this website fit into your marketing plan? Just kind of get this conversation started. Because another thing, we went through all the vision workshops and all these different things you can do. You can take, kind of cherry pick big power questions out of each of those elements and start that in a survey or in a form. And then that way, when you get on the phone with them, you get to just dive straight into the good stuff. So your time is better spent, their time is better spent, and you're not like, well, tell me about your customer. Well, I don't know, I guess. And then there's 15 minutes of them trying to answer a question, and you're on the phone with them for 2 hours, and it's miserable for everybody. But giving them those types of questions in a survey up front before that call, it gives them time to think on it, kind of chew on it, gather their response, and if they get to the call and they still don't know, then there's your upsell opportunity. That's when you get to be a consultant. Yes, sir?
Before I built my website, I had a list of 2,000 people or so, and I did a Google survey or whatever, and it's around financial type investments. So I came up with characteristics or metrics that I thought was important, whatever. Would you pay $25 for a service or $50 for a service? As a long-term service, I did all this kind of stuff, and I submitted it, and surprisingly, I got a large number of people responding back and everything, and I took that information and I built my website.
Perfect.
It,
Yeah.
great.
Market research is easy, guys. There's a lot of market research firms that do a really good job of making it sound super scary and expensive, and there's a reason why you have to pay them $100 grand to get these data points, because it's hard to do market research. It is not hard to do market research. It is fun for some of us. But yeah, absolutely. Put a survey together. You can do general blasts, Facebook polling, Twitter polling, like that kind of, like when you're doing market research for, I don't know who my customer is. Well, make a Twitter poll and find out. There's things that you can do with that. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, cool. Other types of things I mentioned a little bit, calendar and follow-up, automation and timing and things like that. I know when I was consulting, especially when I very first started, and I'd go to a network event and it was amazing. And I met 15 people and I had all of these business cards and it was so exciting. And then 2 weeks later I was like, oh, I followed up with like 3 of them because I couldn't remember, or I forgot, or they told me they weren't available, so I was gonna call them back and then I didn't call them back, or I was supposed to send them an email on Friday and now I've got this shame and guilt that's preventing me from sending my email on Monday instead. There's all these different things that go into play to how well we're keeping up with new clients, whether that's in the acquisition standpoint, the client management standpoint, or even in the lead generation and marketing standpoint. So these are other ways that you can automate and kind of template out yourself. How often do you need to be talking to them? Do you have reminders to yourself, reminders to them? They scheduled an appointment with you. Make sure that those automated email reminders are going out to them so they show up to their email. Use those types of tools. Your customers will appreciate it. They'll feel like they're taken care of. They know they're working with a professional. Another really great thing as you're going through all of this is what's verbalized accountability. When you get all of this, whether you do it in a phone call or they did take a survey, no matter what format, you're getting documentation of some point. So when you are 8 weeks in, and they're like, well, actually, this was supposed to be like this, and I remember I told you that that was not supposed to be like that. Well, we actually have this really documented onboarding process where you, in fact, did not mention this until today. And that is why you're going to pay me more to extend this project, or you're going to cut this so we can prioritize that, and you get to hold them accountable to the project that they hired you to do. Again, especially when we're working with freelancers, small business owners, they are looking for every opportunity to save $1 an hour, just like you are, but we're gonna do it the right way, and we're gonna automate and arm ourselves so we're managing our clients properly. And ultimately what this all comes down to is make that investment first. This sounds like a lot to do, like a whole lot. I have to have all these conversations with them, I have to build these new forms for myself, I have to, it starts to steamroll, but if you think about it, especially the few of you that raised your hand at the beginning of this and said, yeah, I've been halfway through a project or towards the end of a project and a customer come back and hate it and say we're way off base and they're not gonna, and it's just been this terrible disaster. Think of that feeling in your stomach that you could avoid, and then invest the time and build these processes for yourself. That's really gotta be what the motivation is for you. And when it comes down, and so your first UX onboarding process, maybe you make a landing form and then you schedule a phone call. And we're just gonna try that. And we're gonna see how, we're gonna do the survey and make sure we have a scheduled, timely follow-up call. And that's gonna be our onboarding kickoff. And that'll be enough. We're not building rockets here. I'm building them a little website. My clients are easy and they're simple to work with. See what happens after you do that 2 or 3 times. Try something different, experiment. Oh wow, everyone that answers this question on the survey just does not tell me what it is that I think that I'm asking them to tell me when I'm asking this question on the survey, right? Don't ever feel like what you've built just needs to be, tossed, and this is useless, and this is such a waste of my time. Reiterate, reinvest, come back in, you're testing, you're experimenting. After you've been doing this for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, you'll find that this is a really simple workflow for you that you've created. Your clients on board more seamlessly, and you're able to move forward and grow and have healthier, happier communication during your project development. So when you're failing, you're growing. If you're trying, you're flying. That's how I always tell people. It's my little motivational. You're welcome. So here's an example of an onboarding program that I recently built. So at Pressable, we have a strategic partner program. This is not something that they had when I started working with them. I did all this market research to look at other companies and their partner programs and how other hosts are using partner programs. And it seems like everybody already had one, and we didn't have one. So I'm going to be building something. So it seemed really easy that it's like, well, I'll just copy and build what everybody else is already doing. But then when we started to look at it and talk to partners of other people's programs and find out what they liked about them, what they didn't like about them, what they wish a partner program would really be, we realized that we don't really want our partner program to look like somebody else's. So for the first month of partner program onboarding, I manually had conversations, took exhaustive amounts of notes, and I just onboarded everybody through me. It was I manually onboarded them, and that was part of my investment into the market research of how I needed to be onboarding these people. Then it turned into a landing page on our website that had a button where you could apply to become a strategic partner, which automatically calendared a place on for them to have that conversation. So that was my step one automation. I was like, yes, one less thing that I have to do, one less email that I have to send. And then it became, while they're scheduling that, they could actually pre-filter themselves and fill out this little 5-question form. Not too much, don't want to scare them away. They're not investing anything into me yet, so let's just ask a few questions to make sure that they make sense before I get on the phone with them and we realize, oh, we could both be doing something else with their time right now. And then it became, all right, well, now I want them to onboard. I'm saying, yes, we've met, we liked each other. So I can say, I'm going to send you this follow-up email, and it's going to have all this information in it, and you're going to need to, follow back. And they responded to 2 of the 3 asks, and now I have to, go back and forth. So then we found another landing page and another Gravity form. Give us this information, upload these files here. I need a description of 250 words about your company here. I need your, 3 company culture pieces here. I need, and onboarded it. And it took another 12 people onboarding with that form before making changes, before we felt like, finally, this form is working the way that it's supposed to be working, and the information we're getting actually works. So now that form uses Zapier to integrate into Asana, which is our project management tool that automatically builds the tasks and assigns it to my web developer to start building this new partners page with all this content that they just provided us. And all of it happened, and I haven't spoken with anybody since that very first vetting customer. Now it's been 3 weeks. I have a new partner who's onboarding, and now my conversation that I already had scheduled is, let's review your page and make sure you don't want any changes before we publish. And so it took you have to go through this uncomfortable process and invest your time into it. This first thing on the list, the fake it till you make it. So, go through it with people that aren't really actually going to be your customer. Pretend. It's called role playing. Or find a customer that you're going to do free work for and have them go through the onboarding journey, even though that's not what you would typically do for free work, just so you can test it out and you can try it. Don't be afraid to ask for feedback. I was very honest with the partners and saying, hey, you're new. This is new. We're all new here. Tell me what you thought about this. Did this form make sense to you? Did that question make sense to you? Was this easy for you? Did you like doing it this way? Would you prefer it to have had another step for you? Would that have eased some of the confusion? Ask these types of questions. Go back in, reiterate, tweak, and keep going. And then once you get into a place where you're comfortable, then you can start expanding it out. And start taking these same types of tools and automations you've built for yourself and applying them into other areas of your business to just help it grow and start to make more sense. Any questions? No? All right. Yes?
Have you ever worked with chatbots like text
So chatbots are a lot of fun to experiment with. That's definitely one of those places where you want to pay close attention to your data. If you're going to install a chatbot onto your page, I would make sure you have Google Analytics and all those things installed. Pay attention to things like your bounce rate or your exit rate from your pages on a page, where before people would stay on this page and then click through for something else, but now they're exiting really quickly. I wonder why. It's like, oh, this chatbot started coming up and people hated it, so they just left the site entirely. So pay attention to your analytics when you're adding chatbots and things like that. Another thing to do is kind of do like the hybrid of bot automation to I'm still a real human being on the other side of this chat. So let me, again, kind of pre-filter you. Let me present you with 4 things that you might be talking to me about based on which page you're on this website. And then when you select it, maybe there's an article that I can send to you while you're waiting for me to get onto this chat, or because you're in queue or something like that. So I'm a fan of them when they are researched and positioned properly. Whenever people just slap it on for a shortcut, it usually doesn't go very well.
We built some with Twilio.
With Twilio, that's a, yeah.
It would literally communicate with the client, and then the salespeople would get a calendar notification saying someone booked an appointment to
Yes.
onboard. And
Yes.
the AI just basically sold that person.
It's so fantastic. It depends on what you're selling and and if you're selling something that's really consumable and it's really predictable what types of questions they're going to ask, you know that everyone asks this question. Oh my God, everyone asks this question. Then automate that response. Find those opportunities. If you're selling something a little more consultative, or then you can't use the chatbot all the way through to an appointment. But I think that's great that y'all were able to nurture that conversation through the AI. We have one that we use. If you're on a page for a certain amount of time, then it just is like, it'll pop up on you. And if you don't engage after a certain amount of time, then it's like, no worries, here, schedule some time to talk to us later. So it's like passively offering you an additional, so there's all different types of ways to use it. But ultimately what it comes down to is understanding how they're shopping, what their needs are, what that journey needs to look like, and automate as much as you can. But again, only if you're working in the type of business or service where people want it to be automated. If you're selling, AARP, grandma's not going to want to talk to a robot. She's not, so it's not going to work as well. Yes, sir.
We're a CRM company.
Very cool.
We use AI. So it would sell to people, and then on the phone you'd be like, that was
A bot.
a bot that sold you, and then instantly they're signing up.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that's why it really worked out well.
Yeah. There was so we went to this leads generation conference in Vegas earlier this year. LeadsCon. Yeah, it was cool.
It's weird.
They had it was like a phone bot, and it was like that was like their gimmick of their booth, is like, tell us your name and and then it'll call you. And you talk this whole conversation, it asks you personalized questions, all of these things, and then after you got off, it was like, did you know you're talking to a robot? And that was a survey. It was a UX survey, testing survey.
Cool.
And so you went through this whole conversation, and then it asked you, it kind of reminds me of the beginning of Westworld. They're like, that was it. So it's pretty neat. Other questions? Did you guys feel like you learned anything today? I know it's not as technical. Yes, sir.
What do you think about letting clients text you or phone call you versus emails, or trying to keep that segregated?
I think that's, again, it's up to you and how you like to work with your clients. So you can use a phone number mask where you don't have to give them your personal phone number, but whatever number you give them will route into your phone, so you can maintain that separation of privacy. But it's just how accessible do you want to be? If you're buying a $2,500 website from me, I don't want you calling or texting me ever. But if you're buying a $20,000 website, please text me if you need something. I'm happy to make that. So, and then that also goes into, what does your client expect from you? What type of, that's something real, that's my favorite question to ask in surveys, is what is your preferred method of communication? Email, phone calls, text messages, get them to tell you that as early as possible, and then just stay in that lane. And then it's not, oh, I emailed you, oh, I don't check my email. Oh, well, that's the only contact you gave me, so I didn't know you wanted me to, meet you for donuts on Tuesdays at Shipley's. Like, that's how we need to do business. Cool. Like, we'll do that. But find out that information and let your client lead those decisions for you. Did you have another question?
Yeah, my main friction point is in terms of service and privacy policy. Whenever I say I need that content, they're like, oh, just pull it off another website. Like, do you have any advice? Like, how do you get around
So
that?
it's all about, for me, those types of things, it always comes down to positioning, right? Like, I'm an expert. I'm not going to lift some, and so that's, like, you find a way to, like, have that pushback, but you position yourself as if you're doing it with authority as an expert, and almost, like, really? You would invest all of this into all of this development for your sites and for your website and for your customers, and then cheapen it in how they're gonna actually, trust you? Like, that's your trust. That's how your customers trust you, and I pivoted on them and let them know it's really important to invest in it. Or if they're insistent on, no, but this other company does exactly the same thing that we do, it's totally fine, okay. Like, sometimes you just, give the client one, make sure you charge them for you to screen through everything and make sure that it's in the proper language at least. But yeah, it comes back to setting expectations for yourself and how you position yourself with your customer and how they anticipate working with you based on the boundaries you set from the beginning. And that's why onboarding is so important. Like, I know who I'm working with, you know who you're working with, we know how to communicate to each other, we know it's expected to, when we have a problem, what's the course of action? What does that need to look like? Not everybody needs to ask those questions to every client they onboard, but depending on what you're building and for who or what you're really selling, there's gonna be some really important questions that you're just missing out on arming yourself with. So, any other questions? Did we learn something? Was this useful?
This is very useful, thank you.
Yeah? All
Happy
right,
to
cool. I didn't want to do, I didn't know how long we were supposed to go, so.
We've got
Okay.
another hour if we wanted to, they got sort of another
We
hour.
can always,
All right. Well, do you guys does anyone have any, like, I don't know.
I'm relatively new to WordPress.
Okay.
But about 3 years ago, a friend of mine that does investments, whatever, I rolled off a project and he said, Steve, going to build a website, whatever. So I spent a month and a half with WordPress. I built a financial website using StudioPress template, whatever, that I found. And I added some contents and everything. And after the survey, before I did all this stuff, I got the survey first, which showed that there's an interest for what I was trying to do. And then I hooked it up. It's a membership site. And so it's basically, my son, he made comments. He wanted me to put a free month. I said, no. If people have $25, I don't need them to sign up for it. That's my attitude.
yeah.
We went live 3 years ago, June, whatever, and like the first week made $50 or so. And then the next month, I made $400 or so. So now we average about $10,000 a month. And it's just me and my colleague who does, he basically posts stocks. We go through and filter stocks and everything. And in this case, so we have our lead, I remember reading a book about 5 or 6 years ago about doing e-commerce on a website. And the very first paragraph, first page, whatever, it talks about build your website and get people to your website. And then it talks about all this e-commerce stuff. I said, well, the most difficult part is getting people to your website.
Get them to your site.
And so
Yeah.
that's my struggle right now, is because we've been stagnant for like we have 500 members. It kind of ebbs and flows, whatever. And I want to grow to 1,000. I want to go, but I'm not sure, we're trying, we're doing Twitter, we're doing all these different things when we post, but it's,
What
so
about an affiliate program?
I use those, that works really well, the affiliate.
Affiliate programs are really cool. So what that would do is essentially, so you'd create an affiliate program where you find other financial or stock or content relevant resources and say, put a banner ad with a special link or write a blog post reviewing our site and put a specialized link into it, and anyone who clicks from your link and then comes and signs up as a member on my site, I'll give you, $25 or $50. And you build an affiliate program, And then that way, you're incentivizing other people to drive traffic to you, but the people you're incentivizing are already attracting the type of traffic that you want. So you kind of get to piggyback on the work they're doing to drive traffic to their site. And so there's a lot of affiliate program tools. You could build it yourself, it's not easy. Some of the affiliate tools, they charge based on commission. And so depending,
There's a WordPress.
so there's, are there WordPress plugins for it?
There's a WordPress plugin, because I forgot the name of it, but there's one that's the affiliate link where you can add it. It'll automatically add the banner to the site.
Oh, perfect, yeah, so,
And then it'll check it'll verify to see if the other website has your link.
But again, the first thing you have to do is you have to call this other company and try to work out.
Email them, I used to
yeah, hit their contact form. Hey, you guys are producing content that is really interesting to me and my customers and our audience. Would you be interested in joining our affiliate program and make this much money off of every new member we design or we get from your site? And just, spend a half a day once a week just hitting contact us forms and
Who are your clients?
What's that?
Who are your customers?
Well, my colleague, and he's been working with this one company called Stock Charts, whatever, for charting, for analysis and everything. And so, it was on that, and based on his performance and everything, he's ranked pretty high and everything. And so, it's, at that time, a couple years ago, I put a link on his page, this Stock Charts, to do the survey and everything. And so basically, and this is one of the measures I'm trying to look at, is how much of our volume of our members come from Stock Charts versus Twitter or something like that. And I would say, even today, it's 80% of them come from Stock Charts. Now, that's another website where you pay a monthly fee or whatever. But you also have free people, the free.
And it's not like Stock Tweets, like some kind of websites, right? Like Stock Tweets, you can go and follow some stuff.
Right,
I don't know, even to your customers, you can write a robot. I don't know, we was using like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You can write a robot, $8 per month. And you can say, hey, I want like these guys use this age or something. Like, you can write yourself like, and maybe Stock Tweets you also can pay some money and because it's your customers.
But along those same lines now, okay, so this is a good affiliate program.
They also rank you too, like if you're
It helps
linked
rank
to a
you. So
company,
SEO or
website,
like that? Yeah,
it's
SEO.
also-
yeah, it'll improve.
So now, I've got a company called Codable.io, I think it is.
Okay.
For offshore type of, I shouldn't say offshore developers, but it basically is developers worldwide, and they focus on Python, PHP, and WordPress type stuff, development. And you basically, one of the things, my client in this case is my colleague, who basically, when we first started, we were using Google Sheets for us to type our stocks in there, do our fills or whatever, and I said, this is crap, because things get out of sync. And so I took this, and I treated my colleague as my client. I said, I want to try to build, I say build, I got a developer off of Codable.io, whatever. I said, I want to build a trading system where basically we go through, when we do our filter, we would go through and he would enter the stock symbol, enter the price, the date, that kind of stuff. And it would post it to the database and then automatically update our web sheet. So I took the Google Sheets, whatever, and I said, we need to automate this, make it more user-friendly and make it easier for him to use. But I went to Codable to find someone to help me do that right there.
Well, Zapier has a Google Sheets integration, and so we'll design a different custom spreadsheet for different tasks. And so if I add a customer's name to this sheet, Zapier automates something and they get this type of email or that type of email or something triggered from this other system. And so there's lots of cool things that you can do to kind of put it all together with the API. Yes, sir.
Just a comment on the affiliate marketing side. You can run an affiliate program in a home row one. There's tools like ShareSale and ClickBank, the affiliate marketplace.
Yeah, we use ShareSale for our affiliate program. It's like they take like a small monthly fee and then like a percentage commission. Yeah, ShareSale does. ShareSale makes, maybe it's not a monthly fee, maybe it's just a commission of everything we pay out. Yeah.
But they can help to connect you with affiliates to push.
Yeah, well, and that's really, in that platform, you can go search for affiliates in industries, and then you can reach out through them as well too, so you don't just have to reach out and curate. So I recommend both directions though, because the ones that are, hanging out, waiting in affiliate programs, sometimes they can be like coupon sites and things like that, the quality's not really there. So to actually spend the time to search for the sites that you know your customers are at, and to curate that, takes a little bit more time. But I am a researcher and a planner, and obviously time is an investment that I'm willing to spend on these types of things. So you gotta find your balance.
I would go to SEMrush and just see like my competitor websites and do
Oh, yeah.
what backlinks are, and then I would contact them.
That's a good idea
Try
too.
to become affiliates, and most of the time, I got very positive responses.
Yeah.
But usually they'll, if you email them, the first thing they do is they check your analytics.
Yeah, absolutely.
that's the
That's the
first
first
thing.
thing I do. Anytime
That's
ever,
the first
any
thing.
inbound I get, like for almost anything, I go on and I do the similar web and the built with, and like,
And they have
who are you?
standards.
I use all my bots to find out what kind of site you're running and what kind of traffic you get before I talk to you.
That's right, they'll have their standards, and then sometimes they'll write back and they'll say, well, you don't have enough page views.
Yeah, you to meet a certain criteria to join our affiliate program. Because otherwise you're investing, you get a whole bunch, because the one school of thought is like, yeah, well, you have, 200 people out there with linking to your website and that are, putting your information out there, so maybe someone will find it. It's like, yeah, but you also have to consider, your churn rates and everything else, and if you're getting the wrong kind of traffic and the wrong type of signups, you don't know what they're getting, they click through from some obscure place, then you're not really helping yourself either. So to really curate your affiliate program is important.
Do you think, in your opinion, that social media marketing is still worth an investment, a major investment?
Yeah. The short answer. Again, just like you have to invest in your audience, know what type of engagement it is, and know where it is in the funnel. I think that social media is not a bottom funnel activity the way that it once was.
Okay.
It is a top funnel activity. And so if you're using it that way, and you know that I might not get people necessarily buying from social media, but I can get them to click onto a landing page to download an ebook.
Okay.
And now I've got their cookie and their data that I can put into a drip campaign. That is a more mid-market thing.
That makes more
And
sense.
use social media to move people down your funnel into your other places and platforms, then it can be useful. But it's again, the same, it's all about your mindset and what you expect to get from these platforms, and by understanding how your clients are gonna interact with it.
So it's just not in the same position in the funnel as it was?
Right, it's moved up in the funnel, yeah. But that also depends, photographers book business directly on Instagram. And so it is a bottom funnel tool for them.
That makes sense.
What is it that you're buying? How consumable is it? And how quickly can you purchase it versus this is something I want to talk to someone about, or I'm going to actually need to make more decisions before I swipe my credit card for that. That's kind of helps dictate where it is in the funnel. Yes, sir?
Could you talk about what marketing like that would look like for somebody that builds websites, a freelancer?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So social media, if you're a freelancer, is really a place for storytelling. It's a place for credibility building. It's a place for check out this new website I just made for these clients. You're making your client happy because you're tagging them and pushing them and promoting them, but you're also building your credibility and showcasing it. I've seen a freelancer, he and I talked about getting a video campaign started for him, and he did it. And it was like, he was like, it's really off the wall. Like, are you sure people want to do this? I'm like, I think you'd be surprised how much people love video content. And so now what he does is and he's a small business. He builds websites for small businesses in his little area in Georgia, and he's got his really thick accent. But he does like hi, this is, Beth's pastry shop, and this is her website. And he kind of shows it before, and then now he's in the pie shop with Beth, and like, Beth, tell us about your business and what you want to, what you expect to get out of your website. So he does his onboarding process through video, and then creates marketing assets out of it. And he's integrated the whole thing. Like, there's so much that you could do with your social, but people aren't watching those videos and clicking to sign up with him. They're clicking to set an appointment with him. That's a really great, social media. It's a top funnel. It's an interest driver. People aren't going to make a sale. You're building a lead, not a sale, right? So that's a very big difference to mark for yourself. Building a lead, they need something different. They need a lead form. They need a place to inbound to me, whether it's a contact form or downloading an ebook or a case study or clicking to view opt-in content on your site, protected content on your site. There's all these different types of things, but you're trying to get their data, right? So you can find other ways to, cross-market them in email or remarket them into social. Another thing that you could do is kind of more, for social is that brand story of who you are, right? So just because you build websites doesn't mean that all of your social media content should be about websites. It shouldn't even always be about WordPress. But you build websites for, garden centers and, and construction or hardware stores. Like that's kind of your niche thing that you've fallen into. So what else do those people care about? They care about flowers, and they care about seasons, and they care about recipes, and they care about garden layouts, and they care about, look at these cool DIY videos. So find other types of content that's not necessarily related to your product or your service that you're offering, but who you are as a brand and as a company and how you want to relate to other people. Because no matter what has changed in business, no matter how much digital algorithms have completely changed the way we market and generate leads, people are still buying things and doing business with people that they like and trust, right? I feel like that's an age-old adage that's not going anywhere. So you're not meeting them though, right? They're not gonna meet you to like you. So give them something else, like to have glimpses about who you are and what you like. Another thing to do in that kind of same note is just kind of that live engagement in social media. I have my social media manager schedule blocks in his calendar where he is not posting, he is not curating, he is not writing, he is not doing anything but going into other people's content and commenting and sharing and posting and asking questions and pushing back. And well, actually, I don't agree with that at all. I think that you should do it this way. Like you can get in there and have conversations. That's gonna be better not just for your audience, but that's gonna be better for the algorithms and the social algorithms as well, to have that type of engagement and reciprocity build from that. So, yes sir.
I came in rather late.
You missed the whole presentation.
So
It's cool. I hear it's gonna be on YouTube later.
that was actually the first question I was gonna ask was, will this presentation be available?
Yes.
For those who were here and
Yes.
for those who weren't?
The presentation will be available. Capital Factory puts it onto their YouTube channel. We're gonna have that posted and shared out onto the meetup page. Is that what you said?
I saw it already.
Oh, it's already there. It's live.
Okay.
It's live streaming.
If you want to watch her in real time, she's there now. And it'll be saved on their YouTube page. Cool.
Yes, so you can watch it, rewatch it. I know I talk fast sometimes and say weird things, so I don't know, maybe there's something you missed. Yes, sir?
I was wondering if there was a portion in your presentation that addresses like the differences between WordPress.org and, WordPress.com and org and applications.
No, so we did not have a technical conversation.
Okay.
I'm not a technical lady.
Okay.
This was more about onboarding clients and how to set expectations and communicate with them so you don't start to build something for somebody and then redirect or hate it or not want to pay you and like you run into all these friction moments. So the investing in the front end to get to know what your clients actually want before you start to build a website, or if you are your own client in some instances, what do you actually want? What's the goal for these sites? And we went through how to get there and some different tools that you can leverage to build that process for yourself. So I know that next week there's a beginner's WordPress conversation here. No, T place? But that might be a better place for those types of questions about the .com or someone else that wants to answer it.
Probably
I guess I can talk to you because
I have another question for you.
I'm sorry, where I'm at in my process right now is I have a full functioning website on .com.
The free one?
Yeah.
It's time to upgrade up.
Yeah, but
Without the upgrade, I haven't upgraded yet.
Okay.
that's why that's different, right? You can download the free one, WordPress.org, if you wanna know like references like the PHP code, different code blocks, if you wanna know about different themes.
It's just because I'm under the impression that I need to work in order to build an application. Ultimately, I want to build an application.
No, I mean, just, go to, the easiest way is Bluehost or HostGator and just do it.
Well, there's actually, so there's a company called Develop, and they will take whatever website you have and put it into an iOS or an Android framework, and it works not like as a TWA, as a true native app. And if you use their framework, you don't have to go through any of that back end stuff with the stores. It's automatically
So it's
store
like a
ready.
sandbox?
Kind of. It's called Devel App.
What's it called again?
Devel App. DEVELAPP.
I'm gonna look into that.
Yeah.
Okay,
And they actually have like
That's interesting that they're doing
they
that.
have like a model for web builders who want to be able to add applications. Like, oh, not only am I going to build your website, but I'm going to turn it into an app
Right,
without actually having to learn any code or do any
Right,
app development. So it's a really good tool to upsell your websites into apps as well. So it's a cool tool. And they'll take it from anywhere. It doesn't matter if it's WordPress. If it's a mobile-friendly site, no matter what it's built on, it'll turn into an app.
Perfect.
I have a marketing question.
Yes.
So what do you say to a client that wants their website to rank on the first page of Google in a very competitive space like healthcare, where you have 2 pages and all the sites have 60 million views and both pages are full of ads, that they want to rank on that first page with that very competitive word in 6 months?
Reality checks are really important tools to use in onboarding. Something you can use, and I heard you mention SEMrush. Go on to those sites and look them up and say, look, they're spending, $500,000 a month on their Google ads for them to have that place ranking. You can't play here, so it's not going to take that much time. Here's your alternatives. Here's what's realistic for you, and set an expectation through a reality check. That's really important.
How is it called?
SEMrush. And they have a free version that gets you like so many site lookups, and then you can subscribe and pay and get more data. But for people who are not like huge data buffs, like what you get with the free version is
It's
usually
not a
enough.
lot.
It's enough for you to make your high level decisions without having
Right.
to go too into it.
But eventually you have to pay for.
Eventually, you have to start paying for
Right,
things,
yeah.
guys. You're running a business. You have to invest in yourself as well.
Exactly, we're in the WordPress community, everything's free.
You know what? Everything, and the thing I love about the WordPress community is it really is a community. And so even when you have to, especially WordPress, like there are so many plugins that do things that you need. This is a barter community, guys. Like there are people out here in this community that are hustling just as hard as you are. Make connections, make friends, go to WordCamps, go to meetups, talk to them on Twitter, and trade things, trade services, trade products, trade leads, find network loops for yourself. Like there are ways where you can freemium and co-opetition your way into growth in WordPress for sure. But you don't see that in other business sects nearly as much.
Yeah, I tried to do that. in
Adobe
mobile apps
people
as
aren't doing
well.
that for each other.
Yes, it's hard to do that. I tried to do that. At some point, I was learning how to do Android apps, teaching myself Java, and it was just hard trying to find other people to do it.
Yeah, find people, make friends.
Yeah, it was super.
Yeah, there's a user group out there. And then you can find those user groups when you're using part of your social media strategy to go engage and talk into these user groups and have conversations with them to build your brand credibility, right? Other questions? At this point, like, I'm an open book. If you have any marketing questions whatsoever, I'm happy to answer them. Or we can wrap up and eat the rest of the sandwiches. I think the pizza's gone. I didn't know, this is the first time I've ordered from Austin Pizza, so a large pizza is not a real large. You have to order an extra large for it to actually be a large. So, sorry. Any other questions, guys? Nope? All right, cool. Thanks